Welcome to the Aaron Jack Show with Fifi Rong today, and thank you to Doing Good HQ. I'm so happy to be here and talk with you about music and NFTs. Music and NFTs, let's explore. So let's invite Fifi on, and we will be going live. Thank you so much for joining today. Hey!
Hello.
Hello. So, my question today is, what gives you joy when we talk about music?
What gives me joy when we talk about music? Talk about not making music, but talk about music. What gives me joy? I'm thinking about creative freedom. It's definitely along those lines. And I just remember when I graduated, I couldn't get any jobs. Like I failed at every interview because I bored myself to sleep. And but there was one internship I got in straight away because it was a music label and I just passionately talk about music. And then that I wasn't doing music. I wasn't making music. It's just from a very young age, like it was just, that was the thing, that was my thing. But yeah, I didn't pursue it until much later in life. So whenever I talk about it, there was like the passion comes through. I didn't even notice, but the fact that I got the job straight away, and it feels like I suddenly have like this superpower. I can talk forever, and that's about talking about music, the passion. So how does that relate to the freedom of it, the creative freedom? I guess, deep in your soul, everything. That's probably the other end of the stick, which is the life's purpose, is pursuing this type of freedom. That's a deeper kind of spiritual question, spiritual quest.
So on this quest, this spiritual quest of life, where do you find yourself at now, and what gives you that certain thing that pushes you on?
Yeah, I think the freedom is definitely the word that gonna cut through everything. And recently I just call myself a freedom maximalist, you know. And with NFT, it's just like make this come true. So instead of like this being a distant dream or a philosophical ideal, it becomes reality. And that's what's beautiful about it. Sorry, what was the question? Oh, where am I? This is such a great question because what I'm making for the next 7 EPs is like a journey, because me and the Nifty Sachs, we collaborated on this project called Harmony NFT. So it was a chapters of, oh no, 7 drops of from the root chakra to the crown chakra. So following that, that was like a miniature of a test of what we are doing with the NFT. And I'm going to expand that into a 7 chapter EP. And so the first job is gonna be the first EP. The reason I'm saying that is this 7 EP is talking about where I am, literally like spiritually on this journey, coming from Web 2 to Web 3. And when you experience some kind of quantum leap or paradigm shift, meaning everything else around you starting to warp or starting to change, everything you thought you want starting to change, and then you start the value, the worldview, the way you know everything starting to change. So that's what I describe in the 7 chapters, and also I tie into from the security, like the insecurity, the fear, and what you're driven by, the fear, by the the anger, the fight in life. That would be like the first chakra, and then the second one would be the passion about noticing, like realizing this opportunity, and then passionately devote myself into this thing, and to that realizing your true power as that I have the power to make this happen, meaning I can, I am, right? I will, the willingness as well. And then rising to the heart, the opening of the heart to connect with other people in the community, because this is the essential part where the love is flowing outwards and all around. I think that connection is really the key to win in anything. And then having all these alignment, then you can starting to express as a leader, because we're building communities, so we have to express like how I am talking to you. That's the vocal chakra. And then you have the vision going forward, the long term. That's the third eye. So looking forward in Web3, what is the vision? What is the roadmap? That's what people say in NFT. And you need to believe in I need to believe, of course I believe in my roadmap. I mean, I need to communicate that, my vision, to my community, to lead, and then to take them with me on this journey. And then the final one is the oneness. So I win is you win is I win, and we are one. So where am I, to answer your question, is that I am very much in alignment, in the state of flow. I find creating very easily these days. There's very little resistance in my life. The other day I was saying, like, imagine, say, a bottle. I love this bottle. I got it in pound shop, and it just, I have to hug it. I love it. Let's just say this bottle is your qi, is your energy. Funny enough, like a qi is the QI. Qi is in Chinese and also means 7. So that's the title for this chat, like this project. Interestingly, let's just say this is my qi, and a lot of times, on average, like people maybe have some negative and some, it's mixed up, right? Use like a 3-step forward, 2-step back kind of situation. Right now, my positive energy is up to here. As in, I find very much in alignment. Unless you are in some kind of like an ego, like a trip, as in ego-less trip, on certain substance, I don't see a lot of like maybe guru like meditating after years in the cave. Maybe you can go walk the earth as that selflessness, like complete oneness, but we do witness certain glimpse of that oneness. So I would say, like as long as I'm living in my with my heart open and in basic alignment, I don't find myself feeling angry about anything. And like a forgiveness, people always say forgiveness when you meditate, like what's his name, like 6-phase meditation, right? There's always something you should forgive. At this moment, I'm like, who am I gonna forgive? Not even myself. Like, I have no one to forgive. Because I have no hate in my heart right now. So yeah, so that's where I am on that. And then that's freedom. If you have something that you hold grudge towards in your heart, that's not freedom.
I love that. As we're experiencing freedom now, what have you come to realize in your exploration of freedom through the chakras, and where are you looking to, and where are you in that path? Like, what have you discovered, and how can we better understand that exploration of freedom?
On a spiritual sense, or is it tied into NFT?
As you like, both. First, second, you take both. I like both.
Okay. So I think when someone is very into freedom, on the other end of the stick is basically saying that I have put myself in a prison in my own mind for a very long time in lots of different ways. And I think that would be a good starting point, because we're speaking spiritual here. So there is a lot of self-limitation. I wouldn't let me doing anything. Or the best example is a romantic relationship, for example. When I feel certain obligation that I wouldn't let myself feel free when I'm in this kind of invisible tie, right? That's my weakest link, I would say, in all the other journeys. So there is like this invisible constraint, but also that's called attached. There is a string attached. For a lot of people, that feels like security. And for me, that could feel like a lack of freedom, depending how you look at it, because both end is true. So my exploration would be, there is the creative side that I was not free, because it all comes down to, there is the ego self and your true self. The further the separation, the less freedom, because the further the separation, the more the judgment. So your ego is telling you you should be there, but you are here. Shame on you, or you're not good enough. All this kind of like that split is really painful. That's internal, and then that is what makes you not free, right? Like that's kind of like, for me, that's the root reason. So in recent years, especially after a meditation retreat in 2018, I experienced that unity between that two. And suddenly I stopped judging myself, and I felt, wow, life is that simple? I didn't know life was that simple. And since then, my creation has been really effortless. Like there was just like no sitting at the computer, beating myself up. Last time you could do this time you can't do this, you're useless. Oh my God, music has left me. And all that kind of internal dialogue. For me, there's nothing like that. It's just that you can't do it, you take a nap, you try again later. It's simple. If there's 2 people in your head or 10 people in your head, that's very noisy. But for me, since that experience, that awakening of like that alignment of self-judgment, I have very, very little self-judgment these days, and that is freeing. Yeah. Not that I don't have conscience, it's like compassion, self-compassion as the basic. So I mess up a lot. Like sometimes I stay in bed for too long. Sometimes I'm late for this and miss a flight, and I was damn it, see, you do this again. So we all have problems, or eating too much, or sugar, or ice cream, and things like that. But I think that the basic tone is that I love you. We can do better next time. Yeah, and it's not a conscious thing, it's a built-in thing now. So
that kind of habit of it would seem, that we're talking about is, how do we build the habits of not self-judgment and the artist, the creative, but also, how to be the artist and creative as well as a leader in this space and community builder. And how do you find yourself between these different aspects of self and being able to balance, not only creatively, but also being a leader in front of people and also building connections amongst others?
I think I just need to live a few, like I just need to live, build up these toolboxes, these skills. So it's gonna be very, very difficult to start, say, creating at, say, 18 years old, and by 20 you have to be a leader, you have to be a creator, you have to be in front of all these worlds, all these people. You're supposed to be a businesswoman, you're supposed to be, all these roles, and then that's very overwhelming, and too high of an expectation. That's why for pop stars, it's too much expectation for them, and you have to pretend like there's like a pedestal that supposed to be perfect in a way, and then that's not very healthy. But these kind of skills of how do I communicate with my community, with people, that took a while. I mean, the first time I got like 50 DMs, I think there was a sudden surge of Twitter following 10 years ago. And I panicked, you know, maybe even, yeah, 8 years ago. I panicked. I was like, I'm never gonna be free again, because the previous album prior to that I did was like, nobody bothered me. Nobody knew who I was. Nobody bothered me. And then now the sense of lack of freedom is that people are talking to me all the time. How am I gonna, like, you know, I'm just being watched. And then that judgment that comes in again, was like, I have this certain sense of suffocation. And then you work through that, and then you get used to it. And at this point, it's, you know, we're well seasoned, you know, from this kind of stuff. Like, you know, the level to handle stress is much better, and also about the baseline happiness. Because if you're happy, you can handle a lot of stuff. And right now, handle is not even the word, you know, because you don't need to handle something if, you know, it's just like, it's just there. If I don't want to reply my messages, I don't need to look at it. It's just when I feel like to reply my messages, I go there. And if I think I have some business, this is on my calendar. And if I need to create, knowing your energy flow is very important. So my energy is the best after coffee in the morning. So I will save that time for creative, like a really the ugly frog, you know, for business people say you need to eat your ugly frog first. But for me, it's just like you need to move the most energy. That's when you do that first. And then I go to the gym, but sometimes the other way around. But usually it's better to do that first and then go to the gym, and then do the other admin stuff. And so we're having this conversation is very relaxing, because, you know, that doesn't take too much. It's a different part of your brain. So yeah, so I'm not saying I'm on top of my life. It's just I'm very self-forgiving. Like, I don't, if it takes 3 more months, so what? You know, it's not worth worrying about. You know, nobody's you know, nobody's gonna die right now. So, you know, it's all good.
You know, this is very interesting. You bring up this idea of, you know, everyone's contacting you, or I know with me it's the same thing, and there's all of these people, but I know that there's also a lot of people that are scared to even jump out there and get their Twitter, or, you know, start to get on Twitter Spaces or get on these IG lives, because they're scared of all the people that are gonna reach out to them immediately, and then it's gonna be too much to handle. But maybe you could speak to them for a moment. You know, like, what is that, taking those steps, and, you know, what could be reassuring for those steps moving forward?
I would say, what's the end goal, right? Where is the end goal? What do you want to do? Because that kind of stuff, it usually is being stuck in the ego, is thinking about me. You know, when you go on stage, what would people think of me, right? When people are reaching and bothering me, you know, it's all about me. But if the end goal is to help other people, or you want to contribute in some ways, then taking that, you know, shutting down that ego, and everything else becomes easier. And also, it's a practice. If someone just starting, it's gonna be a very relaxed conversation. Like, you know, there's a few people here. Like, now, it's not gonna be instant. You're gonna be like millions of people like you. That would be instant success. So there's so many different challenges and the milestones to get through, because there's, like, you know, if you have too little engagement, you feel not good. Nobody bothers you, you feel bad. Too many people bother you, you feel bad, right? So until that you are just cool within you, then everything, you can always like pick things on everything. And I actually experienced a lot, just observing people. We have to like praise the people who are, you know, brave enough to share their art with the world in the first place, because that was actually a big transition. Because I meet so many people who are artists themselves. They would show you as a friend, but they would just not put the work outside. The reason for that is quite simple, and I respect that. It's like as soon as you put the work outside, the work is not yours anymore. You just want to create in its purest form. If that's the case, then yeah, sure, don't share. If you decide to share your work, then be prepared to get detached from it, because usually that is the fear of judgment. People would judge it, and you don't want people to judge it. That's why I said, oh, I want to keep it, whatever. But then, like if you want to share the art, then we have to not say grow thick skin, to grow the confidence in. Is gonna, I think a detachment. I already said the detach is very, very important. So I care about my work like my child, and think of when you let go of your work and sharing with the world. Think of your child is turning 18 and gone to university, and is an adult on its own now, and it's got its own life, living with other people. The world will have it sharing with me, so I don't feel very personal about it. You think it's good, you think it's bad, none of my business. My job is to bring it up and sharing with the world. So it's a mindset internally. So if for people, it's not the symptom but the cause, really.
I think that's really interesting, this idea of the course of the artwork is that it grows up, and to let it go past being a child, the childlike state of the art, and to see that course of a piece of creation, whether that's music or visual or whatever we're creating, to see that path. How do you see that as you create more and more pieces of work in your life, and also you see so many others creating work in your community?
How do I see that path? In Web3, it gets shorter and shorter, because like the path gets like there's not so much. My last album took me to 5 years from its inception to the finishing. It was maybe you can say art music, like a craft, because I produce everything. Even the mixing took 2 years, just back and forth with Oscar Vision. Like I got him to be my mixer. Usually I can mix as well, but this would just take forever. So I have someone to bounce it off with, and I produced everything. That kind of journey is just a marathon. It's a grind. You just need to finish it. Sometimes when it takes that long, and it's not pretty inside, but I enjoy it. I'll give you an example. Like during 3 months or 4 months in 2020, it's a blessing because I don't have other things to do because it's pandemic lockdown. So I get to stay here and then just do that. But at the same time, 4 months later, I had this kind of meeting, just like, have a call. I realized I couldn't string a sentence together. I couldn't say a sentence. I couldn't express what's on my mind. Actually, my mind was fragmented. I couldn't think and logic. I didn't have logic to talk because my mind has been so much involved in the creation. And I see that happen with a lot of producer friends as well. So that is a long, long, long journey. But in NFT, creating an NFT, because we're so free now, there's just no restriction. For some reason, I will take time to do certain things, but a lot of things actually take so little time because the other day I give a metaphor, instead of like, the aerobic exercise that you run, swim for 2 hours or sometimes even more. I can maximum run 5 minutes. Not even that, that's an exaggeration. But for creation itself, is actually like powerlifting. It's like you give it all and you lift it up So that's why I talk about that flow. I don't sit here and create 12 hours anymore. I sit here, I give myself a 1 hour to create. If the idea comes, it comes. If it doesn't, usually it does, I think. Touch wood, usually it comes. You just catch yourself in a good moment to do it. And give yourself like, you don't need to lift all day. You just need to heavy lifting once in a while. So is that your question? How, like, this growing up the stage? I think it was more conscious earlier in my career, earlier in my creative kind of like, because I was still vulnerable. I had a very fragile ego at the time. Now it's just the more I create, the less I think. I think very, very little. I just don't really think, you just kind of do. But the hardest part is to make yourself do it amongst the admin, the meetings and all that kind of stuff. Like you want to do it. As soon as you can do it, then you win. The hard part is that you have the Twitter spaces, you have all this stuff, and then you have like booking tickets and you need to go to the gym and do everything. To getting to do it is really hard.
Wow. You bring up a really interesting thing, because I think there's so many people here, and whenever now is, because people are going to be able to watch this later on as well, come back and watch the whole thing, right? But just getting on Twitter spaces, getting in social audio, getting in these conversations, it seems such an important part of Web3. How do you see this transition for musicians or creatives to get involved in this process of being a part of the conversation and finding that journey to balance? And how can they start that journey and see that moving forward?
I think if they are in a place to lock themselves away to create an album, then don't do spaces. But if they're in the place where they have already finished the big project like myself, then I just like do those like fun projects, which is a collaboration here and then doing a job here and there. Then it's really carefree. And all I need is maybe 2-3 hours to start something. And if producing needs another 10 hours to finish it, this is temporary. It's not something. It's not something that requires you to do all the time. But creating. What I'm trying to say is, if you need to create, then create at your best moment, and then you are not going to be in the flow state and the peak time for 20 hours a day. So the rest of the time, just how you manage your energy and your time, really. There's always time to communicate in the community. It's just there's a certain sense of addiction and the honeymoon period. That's what I had as well. You just find yourself not being able to focus on anything else but the space, and you're spending like 10-12 hours in the space. Unless you have a purpose, as in you have a job that you need to sell NFTs and you need to massively grow your fan base in Web3, then that has its time and place, meaning you've got the work and now you need to grind and promote. Then the promotion is your full-time job. So you have like a full a reason to be in the space for like 18 hours a day. But if you are in the sustainable mode, like what I am right now, I'm not pushing. I'm just like a kind of like treading water, just like easily floating on water. So I will show up, right? I will show up, and I have my me and Nifty Sax. We have our music and NFT, as in drinking tea yesterday. That's weekly. On Sunday we have music weekly mastermind on Twitter. We've been running that for 9 months and without fail, weekly. And on Monday I have Tommy D and me, like Music Monday. So Monday and Tuesday I have Music Woman NFT. Just right after the NFT, and I go into Woman Music NFT that I started with another girl, So it's a community that supports female NFT music creators. So that's about the ones that I commit to. And if I have time, oh, and another like I support Dill, famous Dill. He's NFT music radio a lot, so I am constantly there with my other phone. So these things are my kind of like sustain, but it doesn't require a lot of time. Once you get into a rhythm, it doesn't really require a lot. Yesterday I was with you in the mental health space. That was fun. You know, I was cooking and eating. That's why I'm like chewing, crunching. And when I when I'm not crunching, okay, I'll say a few words. So that's, you know, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah, I really appreciate you joining my Twitter spaces when I have them. I just want to say that I really appreciate you being there, and I want to say based on that, it's also like there's element of us going and supporting each other, and so even though it's kind of like, you know, not getting overwhelmed, but there's a co-support and showing up and being a part of each other's spaces that goes beyond just like, okay, I need to grind it out. There's a matter of co-support, but also like you don't need to go out and go for an hour on the train to go support your friend. Maybe you could expand a little bit what that is to you.
As in there are
Like
different
just
types.
co-support, and how do you see
Yeah.
that working in the Web3 space, and what
Yeah.
you would like that to look like in the future for all of the people that follow you out there?
I think because we are all creators, mostly 90% creators, your community is your co-support. So it's super, super important how I mean, the best metaphor I can think of is Ethereum. Ethereum's got network effects, right? Everything is built on that. And then how people relate to one another, the little communities, is very similar to Ethereum's network. So our network is, each of us is very powerful and valuable. So that's why, you know, the whole co-support, and then going to your space, you come into my space, and, you know, like how a whole network of people, if you have a job, will help you. And together with all these leaders, and we expand and onboard more people to come into the network, not just we buying each other's stuff. I have bought a lot of our own stuff, but the goal is to expand. So only working together we can expand, onboard more people, and sharing tips and tricks and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so this is a very flattened hierarchy. There's no hierarchy compared to Web 2. Web 2 is like a very top-down kind of thing, and everybody's trying to climb up. And even if you're not that kind of person, you get trapped in a rat race and trying to say, oh, I'm climbing the ladder. And then there are some people who are kicking other people, standing on other people's shoulder, and you feel, oh, I'm such a horrible person. But sometimes it's not because of you. You're trapped in a system that's like that. So the seats are very, very few on the top. That's why people are, you know, it's not bringing out the beautiful, the good nature in people in the Web2 system. Whereas Web3, the hierarchy is very flattened, and then the network is, it gets stronger when you have more network, so everybody can win. And then everybody, if you are tapping into that network, you can win bigger and stronger. So then this one, you know, like this structure is very, you know, what's that, preferred way of working. Like the more people you help, the more you can do well.
And so we're talking about helping and relationship building here, and maybe I think that there's an element that it may be new to people, is how to build relationships virtually or through audio, through, you know, whether we're going through Instagram Live, we're going through audio spaces, we're going through tweeting, we're going through DMs. Like, how do we build relationships? connective networks and community. How do you see that going forward, and how can we focus on bringing out the positive aspects of ourselves and others?
I think it's actually easier. Yes, I mean, people need to be in the same room to feel your vibe, but it's not so much like internet dating as opposed to the, running someone in the coffee shop. I see you across the room and you're the one, that kind of romance, right? It's not that much like that. The real networking building is that it's a little bit like internet dating, where you see the person's profile, you see their preference, you see who they are, generally speaking, and then you have a conversation. In normal network, without the romance, because in romantic situations, you want that surprise. You don't want to be like, Tinder, like, I like you, I find you physically attractive, you find me physically attractive, let's go. So it's like there's no game, there's no mystery, right? But in social networking, it's actually better when I can see your profile and I see your art. Do I vibe with you? And I hear you speaking in the spaces. I can already judge what kind of vibe you are. And it's kind of really, really easy to make network, and you can connect with like-minded people all around the world. As long as you're diligent, and then, you go into a space, you click on people's profile, you're really, really inspired by certain people's speaking, and you just know that's my kind of people. And then you reach out. And then you say, hey, I really feel, what you said there, like a thank you or whatever. And if the other person say, oh, thanks so much, and let me check out your stuff. That's how my first collaboration came about, and then we sold like 5 one-of-ones, and then that was really cool with Marianne. That's kind of like how it happened. And say me and Nifty Sachs were very close friends, we're very like-minded, and we found each other in the space. And then he's a co-founder for Nifty Music. Also, they met in the space. So judging from someone's speaking and then profile, what you do, general interest, you can already decide. So I definitely think it's a good thing. But I still a little bit old school. I'm still not convinced about internet dating though.
I think this is so interesting. Like, as we talk about, like, people are, how do they want to date? How do they want to find each other? How do they want to just like find each other to network and vibe with each other and work together? Like, we're talking about so much of like this interconnective web of people that people have, I recently met people that I've spent over a year with in the same rooms but meeting people in physical life, and this kind of reading people's profiles, listening to like, do I vibe well with them? Do I want to reach out and just like connect more? How can we work together? How can I help this person?
Yeah.
I think that there's something to this, where is this person trying to go? And
Yeah.
also at the same time, that means that we need to also speak up and put out our best selves, our own vibe, our own who we are.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to talk a little bit about that. Like, what does that mean to like be like, here's my identity online. How can I put out who I am as a voice, working through my chakras, as you were saying before, and then to speak from that place, but also to write from that place, and to, have creations from that place.
Awesome. I just see all days NYSNY. So what's Nifty Music? Nifty Music is our music incubator, so accelerator to help artists. So some OGs, like very experienced NFT music successful people, they come together to, it's like a company to help new artists to accelerate their progress, to guide them. It's like a mentor kind of thing. So back to what, how do you put your best self out there? I think it's like any artist, or this is not the first day, first year, or, like a new concept for Web3, for an artist to communicate with their supporters. I personally, it has to be who this person is, because I had like this dilemma back in the days, because my music and my style was very much like a gothic geisha, like that kind of like a dark queen. Like I don't even look at the camera. I'm always like so melancholic. I'm so cold and so cool. It's like, you know, that was kind of the image. But my real character in person is like this, talking to you like this. So I had this like a split. I was like, it doesn't really add up. Oh my God, what am I gonna do? So I wasn't quite sure about that. And this is a good example. And it took many years, maybe 7, 8 years to be okay with it. And so my style would be really versatile, but my personality is the same. And it has to be real, it has to be genuine. So I think authenticity is the big word for any artist or any artist identity, and on it, anybody's personal branding. You know, they was that Gary Vee keeps saying, it's not just an entrepreneur, it's not just an artist, but entrepreneur, anybody who's got a media presence out there, you know, say, you know, Jordan and Dr. Jordan Peterson, or like just like on top of my mind, like a Tom Belly or something like that. So these kind of people, they have like a vision, like Yanni, for example, like, you know, they're from Mind Valley. They all have a personal brand. And even from Michael Walker from Modern Musician, same thing. Although they are entrepreneurs and business people, ultimately people buy into them. For me to buy into, you know, like this brand and this community is because of their personal. I like their authenticity. That's it. I like their vibe. Sometimes I don't like certain people's vibe. I'm not gonna follow that person. So how do you put your best self out there is, you know, just work on authenticity. Sometimes people find it really difficult to even know who they are, so work on that. So if they, I have actually experienced someone, you know, some people that I know for years, but I just realized, oh my God, that was a mask. I was like, who are you? And this is in person as well. And you're starting to realize this person has adopted a mask from somewhere. It's just been quite consistent in front of you. But sometimes, like, this person can drop this mask and become so, like, that is the most scary thing, for someone to realize this is not who you are. So how you, like from my personal experience, what, like, this is really like me. If you ask any of my friends, like, this is me. If you ask my landlady or her daughter, this is like 100% me. It's like there is like not even 5% like, oh, this is a show because I'm in the performance mode. It's not. Like, this is just a part of my personality. And as long as you do that, then for the next 80 years, if you can live that long, it will be consistent. And as long as you have the consistency, people would trust you more and more if you stay that. And I don't really think, you know, we need to work on too much on, I mean, on how do I mold myself. But then I guess interpersonal relationship is very important to work on, because I happen to be this person who's like, I can see your point of view, I can see your point of view, I think you're both right, because I can understand you and I can see, you know, I can hold several different point of view with one subject. This is fine. But then I noticed, like, that's not everybody, because, you know, sometimes people have extreme views on something, and then holding extreme view is quite, to me, is quite dangerous, because I mean, to them it's a stance, right? This is okay, that's what you believe in. But I'm talking about in Web3, and then to communicate with people and then to build community. I think have compassion and understanding from the other person's point of view is super important, and they give you flexibility, right? And being liked is important. That's a social skill. And because the danger, what the world that I don't want to see is that people, you know, I hold extreme view, so I can see like-minded people. I'm going to find other people holding extreme view, and guess what they're gonna do when they come together? You know, it's dangerous. So yeah, more understanding, more compassion.
I think this is really important as we talk about Web3. I know we're wrapping up in the next minute or three, but I think just this idea of understanding and compassion are so important, and listening to others' views, but also not necessarily taking extremist views on things, because it doesn't help with bridging people together, which I think is a big part of Web3 and how we can move forward and grow as a community. Maybe you could talk just a minute about this before we wrap up, about understanding and compassion and how
Right.
that plays into your role as a community leader.
Yeah, I love talking about it, and especially if I only have a few minutes, then I will go to the key, like the crown jewel of everything is consciousness. Is a consciousness revolution. And then the ideal is like, say, you know, some people understand it as the Christ consciousness. I call it unity consciousness, right? So that is the ideal state that I'm not even there, right? And I'm not quite there, but I can understand this is my ideal. Like I'm aspired to move towards that and help other people to move towards it a little bit as well. So that's kind of like the root to everything else, how you relate to people, how you relate to yourself. And as long as, because we can change a lot of things, the climate change and you know, the sexism, ageism, like you know, all these against this, well, let's fight for this and fight for that. If human consciousness don't change, it's just gonna go back to the same thing, because the selfishness, the separation, the fear, the jealousy is so built in. So everything, it all comes to the deep-rooted feelings. And then people do things with their feelings. And a lot of times, those kind of like a very extreme or hate, it comes from pain. It's the pain that's unrealized within their deep consciousness. So it all comes down to the individual. When the individual went through suffering, and enlightenment, working through their own being, they will shine a light that there is understanding with other people. So it's very difficult to, you know, but we are living in a world that's just a lot of people are hurt, but then haven't got the chance to work through. When something is so far gone, and then there's a behavior like there's a tendency for people to lock those emotions into the box, and then that would trigger psychosis and the schizophrenia. That's not how you say schizophrenia. Yes,
Schizophrenia.
schizophrenia. Yeah, and depression and all that kind of separation is because of just pressing down and then not process. I heard the best thing for people to say when they don't meditate and don't do internal work is like, think about if you don't go to the toilet for 40 years. You know, when you start opening, oh, well, what kind of shit's gonna come out? so so it's in spirituality, it's very much like that. So everybody has a duty to work on themselves in their own consciousness. And as I think leaders, especially later on in life, I hope to be some kind of like, you know, influence to, you know, to help in this kind of way. And luckily people in Web3 right now, especially the people that's around me. I don't know about the you know, a lot of crypto bros and all that. That's not really my crowd, but the crowd around us are very awakened people, very progressive thinkers, and people who have been through stuff. And there's a lot of real love around, and it feels like very like-minded. But then again, this is a very small community. But in general, the vibe is not like what's out there. What's out there is kind of, you know, there's sometimes just like this weirdness. For example, on YouTube, you just have that percentage of people who want to get attention by leaving really negative comments, insulting people. I mean, I guess the translation in Web3 is the trolls. So what are they getting out of this? You know, they come in and they shout some like rude words and stuff, and they get blocked. Like, but that's pain. That's something that's not clicking. You know, they are trying to They want love, but they just don't know how to get it. That's why, that's just how it is. And I remember in coming from Web 2, and then in modern musician, our community, all of us have this kind of comments that really hurts, because we put our art out there, and people say, for example, you say, oh, if you like this artist's music, you might be interested in my music, and then you have people, who do you think you are comparing to this person, so you have that kind of but that just really shows you a reflection of how the world is going, the consciousness state. There's a split. So yeah, my deep belief is not fixing the social society symptom. Like, you can give us communism, but it's not going to work given the current consciousness. It has to be consciousness level, leviate, levitate, no, elevate the consciousness, and then the system will change itself. So that's why imposing a new societal system is not healthy. We tried in China. They tried.
We're gonna have to have a whole thing about consciousness. We're gonna get a Twitter space about that. Going. So we'll do this. I just want to thank you so much for being here, and Fifi and our audience. Thank you so much. Where can we find you? Let us all follow you. Where can we follow you? How can we see you and talk with you and be a part of your conscious movement?
Oh, thank you so much. Everywhere I am is at Fifi Rong, Fifi, Fifi, Rong, RONG, without the W. So it's at FIFIRONG. And my website is also fifirong.com. So it's FIFIRONG.com.
Perfect. And do you have any last words to leave us just from your heart that you would like to share with the world right now?
Check out Web3. It's nice. Yeah. Keep an open mind. Just give it a try.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye for now. Thank you for having me. You're a great interviewer. Speak to you soon. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Thank you to Fifi Rong, for joining us today as we've delved into Web3 and consciousness and a little bit of understanding of building relationships just beyond ourselves, in this world where we have Twitter and Instagram and all these, Clubhouse and all these different social medias, and move into the future as many more out there. And how can we do this in a conscious way and work on ourselves and to put our best selves out there, an authentic self, as we talked about, to put an authentic piece of ourselves into the world, because we're looking, when we start to build these relationships, we're looking at the Instagram feeds or the Twitter feeds or the different things, and we're hearing people in these audio spaces, whether video or in person or just audio, and just who do we vibe with, reaching out and connecting with others, and what does that connection mean, and how do we move forward with these connections and build collaborations and build together in this world. We're left with these questions. So I'm Aaron Jack. We've been here with Fifi Rong. Thank you to Doing Good HQ, where you, the creator, get to also be the philanthropist. I really appreciate you being here with me every week with the Aaron Jack Show, on the Aaron Jack Show, taking a little moment from all of our days to be together. So thank you so much, and I'll see you next time. Thanks so much.